We figured being at the end of the year, it would be a good time to do reporting in Check Cherry, and kind of walk through some of that, take some questions, get your thoughts on how the year's been going, all that stuff. And as usual, Matt will drive and show us around, and I'll field questions. We like things casual, so feel free to raise your hand. We can, mute yourself. You can also pop a chat in there, and just as we go, if you have a question or something, just feel free to let us know. But the idea is basically a lot of people will touch the reporting, or in January as they're running numbers for taxes and so on. Also business decisions, but a lot of times it's taxes, at least on the support side that we see. But so Matt, maybe we just,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah. So as Judd mentioned, it's kind of getting to the end of the year. Looking forward, we'll probably, I don't think we'll have a webinar 2 weeks from now, and then 2 weeks after that, we'll do a tax one, where we kind of cover all the basics of tax and sales tax and income tax and all that. So look for that. So we figured, now's a good time to kind of dig into some of the reporting, and then, a little bit, as you're kind of looking at your New Year's plans and, looking forward and putting together tax info and stuff like that. Hopefully this is something you can refer back to. So lots of ways to kind of run numbers in Check Cherry. We're going to kind of focus on the reporting. We'll see how time is. We might have time to look at some of the dashboard widgets as well. But for now, you'll find most of the reporting that particularly for kind of the end of the year stuff, is going to be under sales reporting. And within that, you're going to see a lot of different tips, or different reports rather. So just to kind of go through some of these, bookings report is great for just general data on your bookings. If you just need to pull pretty much anything, with details of package names and dates and times and who was assigned, the bookings report will have it. So we'll dig into some of these reports in a little bit more detail, but payment history is going to have just a list of where you received payments. Leads are going to be good for your lead data. And so these tend to be more detailed reports. These will give you a spreadsheet full of data with tons of information, but they're pretty detailed, and a lot of times it's kind of more detailed than is useful. So I think we're going to look at some of the other reports first. The sales tax report is a big one. That's for, at the end of the quarter, end of the year, depending on how often you need to report your sales tax. This one can be useful. So let's dig into this one first. So with the sales tax report, depending how you have your tax set up, this can show up in a couple of different ways. If you have a flat rate, we're not going to be able to pull in the county and city and all that. But if you do have TaxJar enabled, then we'll be able to pull that in. And what you'll notice is most locations want you to report it broken out by county and city. So that's how we kind of have it organized. And you can see for all of the money you received in a given quarter, you can see how much tax you received and how much is owed. And then you can go into the customize options to dig into that more. So, maybe you have to report sales tax annually. You can just set the date range to that. A few other things. Most customers report with what's called cash accounting. And so if in doubt, that's probably what you are. There's also something called accrual accounting that usually in that world, you're more into kind of the QuickBooks and the more advanced accounting software.
But if you don't have an accountant,
Mhm.
on retainer,
Yeah.
your cash accounting
hmm
for sure, and maybe even if you do have an accountant, but yeah.
Yeah. You can also turn off some of the grouping options. Some places don't want you to report by city. They only want by county or vice versa. So feel free to turn those on or off as needed. And then there's a few other options in here, to give you additional detail. For instance, some locations require you to report the total sales amount, or they'll require the non-taxable amount as well as the taxable amount and things like that. So feel free to, come in and turn everything on and see what it looks like, and then you can kind of pare it back down so it's more manageable.
And that customized buttons on a lot of reports, right?
Hmm.
Like and people oftentimes, they miss it, that hey, you can add stuff or add columns or something like that. So super helpful. Click it, see what's in there. And if you ever have questions on the reporting or want to get something or can't figure it out, chat with us from within your account. We can help you.
Exactly. And so as you kind of go down, we'll typically have totals at the bottom. So feel free to look down toward the bottom if you're looking for a total on something. And then another common thing you'll see beyond, like, say, the customize button is a download button. And with that download button, you can export it to a spreadsheet. And so that can be real helpful for sharing with accountants, analyzing it in other ways as well. So feel free to download if needed. So let's go back to and take a look at our reports again. Let's look at, so another one that I think is really useful at the end of the year is to see who owes you money, an outstanding balance report. And so let's view this one. And so what this is going to do, we've got all kinds of test data in here. Hopefully you don't have things that are hundreds of days past due, but what this will do is it'll show you everything sorted by basically how past due it is. And that'll take into account things like deposit amounts and stuff like that. And so you can even see, like, on this event, we probably never even got the deposit. There's still a $150 deposit outstanding of that almost $4,000 event. So you can come in, see what's due, what the deposits amounts are, and things like that. You can also filter things. So maybe, you've got a few old ones that you're still working on and you just want to see a certain date range. You want to look at maybe your 60 to 90 or something like that. See if I got that. Probably got that backwards. You can customize with that filter button in there too. And so you can see just the ones that are 60 to 90 past due. You can also do things like, set the due dates to this week, last month, all that type of stuff. Any past, any future. And then, of course, a custom one. Yep.
We have a question. Can you set to remember favorite reports or settings inside reports?
Absolutely. So say you wanted to just see everything that's 90 plus days past due. Maybe you just want to have something that you can come to quickly for that. What you can do is come in, customize that. Now we're limited to, we've got these 24 events that are past due. And of course, you can download that to Excel and send it off to somebody if you need to. But the other thing you can do is save this as a new report. So if I hit save and call it 90 plus days and hit save, now I've got a saved report and I can come back and view that anytime. And just to kind of to review a little bit, so if you go to sales reporting, you'll see the default reports here, and then you'll see those saved reports. So I can come in and see this 90-day report. And so that'll keep updating from day to day as things happen. Another cool thing you can do with saved reports is you'll find this report settings option. And you can also set those to email you. So you can do like a weekly email of your 90 plus days past due, or if you're really on top of your collection, you could do anything 0 plus anything past due you might want to get a report on. And so you can yeah, go ahead.
And just to be clear, this is an internal thing. This is an admin thing. If a client's past due, you can automatically email them separately in another area.
Right.
This would
Yeah, this
be
is
an
for your
internal
team.
thing.
Yep.
Yeah. Just
Exactly.
want to be clear. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. And so this is for you internally, and you can come in and you can set, anybody's email. You can do somebody internal. You can also set these up for, if you've got an accountant on your team, or if you've got somebody that helps out with collections or things like that, you can set them up to get recurring reports like that as well. So going back to that, and then the other thing you'll notice on this report and a lot of others is the columns button. So there's lots of different columns you can come in and customize as well. So maybe it's helpful to have this outstanding balance, but I want to come in and add an invoice number or see which brand it's associated with or things like that. You can set those columns and save that as well. And then one other thing I'll mention, if you are using saved reports, these little shortcuts, with things like this week or last week or stuff like that are real helpful for saved reports because, generally you're going to want to see everything, everything that was due in the last week. You're not going to want to see just, January 1st to 7th. So these little shortcuts help a lot with that as well. Let's go look at some other reports. So another one I like this time of year, is especially as you're kind of like looking back on the year, is this most frequently booked report. And if we go in here, we'll see a number of tabs here. And so just kind of going through these, the first one that comes up, what it's going to show you is how your most frequently booked packages. And so you can see, of all the packages in 2025, how many signature spin packages you booked, how many of these you booked, how many of these you booked. And that's going to be sorted by, looks like number of bookings, but you can also change that if you want to sort it by revenue. And so you can see, okay, which ones made us the most money and which ones, how many bookings of each did we have? And I really like that at the end of the year because it's a good way to kind of like figure out like, which packages are working, which ones are actually generating money, and what do we need to order for the next year? If we're selling a lot of a certain booth, do we need to order more of that hardware? Or, if there's certain things here at the bottom that we're just not selling, like maybe those are things we want to reconsider. Maybe those, in fact, we want to, kind of take them off the list because they're just adding confusion without really getting booked or anything. Similar, your add-ons, you can do the same thing there. So you can see which of your add-ons was booked, how many, how much revenue and stuff like that. Same with backdrops. Backdrops are another one that I think it's worth, as you're kind of evaluating stock and what you want to keep and get rid of this year. Backdrops are another good
And I just want to add something, which is, if something doesn't sell, I mean, you might want to not offer it or not offer it, high level, real, present it to customers often. Because then the more things you have, the more confusion it is, just focus on what sells. I think that's good too.
Yeah, at any given like kind of decision point, you don't really want to give your customers more than 2 or 3 choices. It just tends to lead to confusion and they'll avoid pulling the trigger. So I've also got in this account, it looks like we have a couple of extra categories set up. So if you do things besides add-ons, backdrops, if you have like props or things like that that you have set up in CheckJar, those will show up as well. I think we did a webinar a couple of months on extra categories, so feel free to check that out. Staff is another good one. Sometimes people ask, they just want to see, for kudos sake or for, just to kind of know who's working events. This staff tab will show you that as well. So I can say, hey, Sam's done 9 bookings, Elle's done 9, Jasmine 5, and things like that. And again, it's just helpful to kind of see that. And then customers. So this is useful if you do a lot of repeat business with certain customers. If all of your bookings are unique, then it probably won't be very helpful. But if you want to see, based on the customer, Sarah here did 16 bookings, that's a great way to see that. And then the last is refer. So if you take advantage of the refer tracking, where maybe venues or maybe different partners are sending you traffic, we'll show those as well. So like I say, that's I think a great one for the end of the year. It's
Absolutely.
not something you necessarily look at all year, but when you do want that, I think it's a good one.
What to buy, what to sell, or get rid of. Who to send Christmas cards to. Who to
Yeah,
give bonuses
exactly.
to.
Another one, we're going to skip this for now, maybe look at that later. The profit and loss is a good one at the end of the year. That's going to have a breakdown of your income and expenses. And so, typically that's going to be for, say you want to see it for the year, you can come in and make tweaks to the settings if you want. But what that's going to show you is how much total revenue you generated and then what expenses are coming out of that. And so these expenses, it does require you to make use of the expense tracking feature. But if you were logging these expenses, then now you've got a great breakdown of, how much did you actually make this year based on, the business and everything else. So one thing I'll mention on the expenses. So if you do have expenses to log, you can go to sales expenses. You can manually enter them, if you want. If you do have like a spreadsheet or something, we do have a bulk import there as well. So if you do have like a CSV file of a bunch of expenses that you've pulled from something else, you might have to tweak the report a little bit, but there's a sample CSV you can use to see an example, and you can bulk upload those pretty easily now. So that can come in handy.
And everybody will have income regardless, right? I mean,
Hmm.
if you
Yeah,
want to,
and we don't really break the income down much. Basically, sometimes in like QuickBooks or things like that, there are reasons to break it down further. Generally in CheckCherry, everything is a service, so we just kind of have one category. But
mhm.
yeah, and most of these are clickable too. So if you want to see, all of your automobile expenses or dues and things like that, you can click that to get more details. One other thing I'll mention too, when thinking about how much money you made in the year, I think it's worth kind of pointing out. A lot of times we find, people take a deposit up front and collect the rest of the balance, later, closer to the event. And it's not unusual that you'll have money, you'll book an event in one year and not actually perform the event until the following year. And so you'll have like revenue that cuts across those years like that. Maybe you collected the deposit in 2025, but the event happens in 2026. And so with cash accounting, I mean, basically what that means is your, it's based on how much cash you received. And so most of our reports are going to be like that. So when you
Yeah.
click and see the sales, what you're seeing is money that you received. So you received $6,000 this year, or 6,900 in this account. You may have booked, 8,000, or maybe you booked something and didn't get paid or whatever. None of that's going to show up. It's only based on how, the money you actually received. So
When the
that's
money
going to
hits the
be
bank. Yeah.
exactly. And generally that's what you're going to be paying taxes on. If you booked $100,000 event, but you haven't gotten any money for it, then, that doesn't generally, that's not something you're going to pay sales tax on or income tax or things like that until you actually get those funds.
Okay, got more questions.
Yep.
Is there a way to download the client contact info? Um,
Yeah. So another real useful one is the client list. So if you go to that report, what we're going to show is all of your customers and their emails and a little bit of other details. You can come in and kind of customize that, first names and phones and whatever else you want on there. Once
and
you're
then
happy with it, just hit that download button and that'll have all the details. So if you decide, hey, I want to send an email blast, I'm using an email software now, like I want to, do kind of an end of the year happy holidays type email to everybody. You can download that list and generally upload that straight into a Mailchimp or something like that. We also recently did launch a Mailchimp integration, so if you happen to use Mailchimp, we have a way to kind of do that without downloading and uploading. But yeah, for anything else, you can do it that way.
I got two more for you. Is
Yep.
there an inventory report feature?
Um, I guess it would depend what you mean by that.
And yeah, so the short
Sorry, I
answer
can't
is
see the chat.
CheckTerry does not necessarily have an inventory feature where individual booths are, blocked off and assigned to a booking and all that stuff. We have kind of more of an availability feature where we have booking caps, all that stuff. So maybe if you want to chime in and let us know kind of specifically what you're looking for or the business insight that you're looking to gain. Um,
Sure. Sure. Yes. Thanks, guys. I am talking about inventory. So if I have five auras, right, and I am booking them, but one event has three, and another event has two, availability won't address it. I think if I'm only booking two events but using multiples, does that make any sense? What I'm mentioning here?
I didn't follow 100%. I mean, maybe Matt
Sure.
did, but the availability feature will prevent you from being double booked. I mean, obviously, it does depend on how you have things structured in your account, but you should
Meaning,
be able to do it.
If I
Um,
say that there's an availability of 5, is that by event or by equipment?
let's move this to chat because it's not necessarily
Sure.
reporting related. Just pop open a chat and kind of,
Sure.
go in there. It's not necessarily report. It's kind of more of an availability feature, but just chat with us.
Great.
Rosie said,
Thanks.
yeah, cool, thanks. Yeah. And
Can
then
I just
Cynthia has one more.
insert, does
Yeah.
it, Rosie, when you mention that, having the booths or the equipment, are you referring to maybe depreciation of equipment? So like
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
purchase a
that's also,
booth,
yeah, I'd like to move it into like when I purchase something new, if I record it here because then it becomes available, it's something I can also push into my reporting for QuickBooks for my accountant.
Yeah. And so this is
That's
not
that's
cash.
the
This is the accrual accounting basically type
hmm
stuff I was
sure.
talking
okay.
about. And
Okay,
so
thank you.
it's not something CheckCherry supports. You're going to want to use QuickBooks. You're going to record it in QuickBooks, all that stuff, and use those features over in
All
QuickBooks.
right, thanks, guys.
Yeah. And then Cynthia says, is there a report for the fees on collected for credit card processing?
Yeah, so that will show up. Couple ways you can get that. Under the profit and loss, we will have. I'm pretty sure we have a line item there for credit card fees.
Expenses. Yeah.
Another way you can get that is under the payment history report. Um, by default, that's going to show, when you received a payment, what the event date was, payment applied. But if you go into the column, and we recently added this search, so that makes it kind of easier. But if I type processing, that'll find this processing fees column, and that'll show any payment processing fees you got. So it looks like we just have a bunch of manual ones on this account, but that'll show you what those processing fees are, so you can deduct those.
Cynthia, go ahead.
Sorry. So I think about mid-year, we went from paying the processing fees to passing that cost on to our clients. So
Mhm.
will that show here that difference
Yeah, it's a
I
good
guess the way we
question.
handled it?
So how that works in an accounting sense is you're effectively charging your customers more. So you have more income and then you have more expenses. So you would basically, from an accounting, from a tax reporting, things like that, you would have slightly more income now. That $1,000 event now is going to be $1,030 or whatever because you basically charged more. So you're going to show a little bit more income, but then you're going to still have those same payment processing fees that as an expense, and those are going to be generally a deductible expense. So if you were to look at a profit and loss, your income's going to be a little bit higher, and then you're still going to have the expenses like for the whole year because you've been paying that as an expense the whole year, and then your net income is going to be income minus expenses. So if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
basically, it's not really going to affect like you're basically you made a little bit more money to kind of counteract how much you were paying in processing fees.
Yeah, it's just the breakdown when it occurred. I think we went like mid-year is when we made that change.
Right.
So
Yeah, and so basically what you're going to find is like any payments that you received since then are going to be like a little bit higher than they would have been otherwise. So those will be instead of somebody making a $1,000 payment, like that payment will be higher. And so so you'll show that on the revenue side, but the expense side will be the same.
okay,
Yeah.
it makes sense. Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
And then you can also see processing fees in that payment history report. There's some other things like net amount, if you need to see how much what the net is after those adjustments as well. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
And one more time, go show how to save a report and access it. Um,
Yeah.
Rosie's
So
having
if
problems saving settings. Yeah.
Yeah, so if I come in, I kind of customize this, I'm like, okay, I want a payment report for this year, and I need to keep going back to this. If you click the Save as New Report button, then that's going to be payments, we'll call it Payments 2025. We'll hit Save here. And obviously it's going to take you right there. But if you need to get back here, you can go back to Sales Reporting, and basically, you can just kind of switch between these built-in reports and your saved reports. So that's where you're going to
You
find it.
can't change the default report. is basically,
Right.
you got to click Save Reports. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
May
we
I
keep
ask you to show
uh-huh.
me sales taxes? Because I don't see that feature in in tax reports.
Yeah, so if we go to the reporting,
Sales tax.
the
Hmm.
sales tax. Oh, the save one. Yeah,
Because it's not there.
yeah, this one's a little different. Just the way we have to calculate it on the back end. We probably could come up with a way to make that work. It's just a little. It's a weird one. Most all of them do have kind of the same features. Some of them are just a little
I didn't realize that. Learned something new.
annoying.
Thank you.
While we're on this page, can I ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
You mentioned that we needed to have enabled TaxJar. How do we know if it's enabled or disabled?
So under manage, business settings, and then tax. So that's where you can kind of set up your tax. And in general, you would just have, for most people, they would just have a single tax rate or tax zone. And the default is to automatically calculate sales tax based on the venue location. And so when that's enabled, then we'll calculate that sales tax when it comes in. So whenever they book you, we'll look it up with TaxJar, figure out what the rate is and what county and city and all that, and then apply it. Um, that's basically where that comes from. So
Sorry, I missed where you went. Where did you
that
go
gets
first?
under manage, business settings, and then tax.
Okay.
And then if you don't have a tax zone there, you can either edit it if you've already got one there, or you can create one. Like I say, generally, sometimes people have different. Maybe you only need to collect sales tax in a certain state. Um, that's the main reason we support multiple zones. But let me go back to the reporting here. So what else is useful? So a few others. Let's see here. We went through our profit and loss. We also have an expense report. That's a kind of just a good way to download all of your expenses. So, once you've got them all uploaded, they're in CheckCherry. If you ever need to just get more the raw data, the profit and loss is great for kind of a breakdown, but sometimes you just need a spreadsheet of all the data. So that expense report will let you do that. You can download that. The client list we looked at. Let's see. Time off, not super commonly used, but if you do have any, just need a history of staff requesting time off, you can do that as well. And then a couple of I guess less useful, but still occasionally helpful. This utilization report. This is going to be more for, I would say, large operations that are just kind of looking for a breakdown on a day-by-day basis. So one thing that we've kind of found is certain operations, you've got 10 photo booths and you want to quickly track which of our booths are being used and how close to utilization we are. Especially if you do a lot of business in December or something, you can kind of come in at a glance and see, okay, we've got a limit of 5 and none of them are reserved, or things like that. So maybe for New Year's Eve, you can come in and say, oh, let me see what we still have that we haven't booked out yet, and come in you know, and get that booked. And that'll work for packages, add-ons, backdrops, staff, things like that as well. So you can come in and see, all of your staff in one place and who's booked, who's available, things like that. And so those are probably the main ones we see. Packages and add-ons, places, those are more helpful for just kind of exporting data. So with any of these, we try to make it easy to kind of get your data out if you need to for any reason. So so both of those will let you export that data as well. I don't know. Anything else you think might be useful, Judd?
No, I mean, I think it's, the reporting's there when you need it. And I guess
Mm-hmm.
Cherry's kind of philosophy over the years has been to give you access to your data, allow you to download it. Maybe a question would be, Matt, will Cherry ever have report building and
Mm-hmm.
other fancy graphs in the reporting section?
I don't know, probably, I mean, probably. We're always adding stuff, yeah. Yeah, well, I would say one thing you can't do with CheckJarry, probably the main thing you can't do with our reporting very well is like grouping. So if you want to say like, oh, let me see, how many 4-hour and how many, group that all together. That's not something we currently support, but and we don't have an easy way to take this and turn it into a graph. But I would say definitely, you can always, for a lot of that stuff, it's so easy to pull that into a spreadsheet like Excel or Google Sheets or something like that, and use their chart or their graph feature as well. Another place, though, if you are looking for more visual things to kind of explore, definitely check out the dashboards. So if you go to your dashboard and hit this customize button, you can have the kind of your basic dashboard that you see when you log in. But it's also, I think, helpful to have something like reports or KPIs or whatever you want to call it. But for information that you just kind of want to explore, that can be real helpful. So if we come in and add a widget here, we've got lots of graphs for things like your revenue, revenue growth over time, lead comparisons, proposal, like all these top ones I think are really useful, kind of, comparing year over year growth. So like, for instance, if I take this revenue growth chart here and add it, I'll click finish. I can see, okay, last 12 months, I don't think we have much data, it looks like, for last year, but I can see, okay, we created this account in June, it looks like, and, up and to the right. So, everything's going great in our demo account here. It'll also show last year, though, so you can kind of see, like, compared to last year, where were we at? And are we ahead of last year, down from last year, things like that. And you can do that by the schedule date. So if you just kind of want to see, like, how many events did we do in December this year versus last year. You can also do it by payments. So you can see how much money you've collected. Are you ahead or behind last year in terms of, what actually matters, which is revenue in your bank. And then for more kind of a salesy type view, you can look at like what you booked last year. So that will let you compare, if you book all of your events in March, but they all happen later in the year, it can be helpful to kind of look at this booked thing and say, like, okay, are we booking as many by this time, at this point as we did last year?
Yeah.
And feel free to kind of, yeah, go ahead.
Andrea has her hand up. Go ahead and speak up.
Hi guys, how are
Hi
you?
there.
Hi.
So was just looking at the booking report.
Mm-hmm.
So we're new. We're kind of new at this whole thing. So I'm sorry if this seems like a dumb question.
No, you're
But
good. No,
Yeah.
don't worry.
You're good.
when people ask me, hey, we're interested in your service, can you send us a proposal? I send it through CheckJarry, obviously, one. But we've had a lot lately. I don't know what's going on with the market, but I think people are just shopping for the least expensive vendor. So I've got a lot of canceled proposals in my list. And I don't see a filter, like, because if I'm running this report, I know that they're there. Is there any way, or can we add a feature where you can separate out what's canceled? Because
Yeah.
I want the record that I've done the work. And if they come back and say you never sent, I can look and, verify whether I did or not. So I want to kind of keep them, but I don't necessarily, if I run this report,
Yeah,
I
you
don't
probably don't
necessarily
you
want them to
probably don't
show
need
up.
reports for that. You can go to the proposal, sales proposals and see the expired ones, right?
Yeah,
Right.
so couple things on that. So if you go to the filter with the status, if you do any confirmed event, that'll probably give you what you want. And what that'll do is that'll just show all of your confirmed bookings.
Where did you say confirmed?
On the bookings report, if you click the filter button,
Uh-huh.
this top one is probably what you
Oh,
want there.
status.
Yeah, and that'll take out any of the ones that are confirmed. kind of for historical
Excellent.
reasons, yeah, it probably makes sense for us to break up the bookings reports from, from proposals.
Right.
Technically, you can have revenue on proposals, which is why they're still together. But I don't know. At some point, we may break these up into separate. But yeah, if you go into that any confirmed event, that should give you what you want. And then,
That is
um,
exactly what I want because
yeah,
I want the history that I did the work or I had
hmm
the interest in the package or whatever. Um,
Mm.
but for some reason they didn't book with us or went with someone else or whatever, it doesn't matter. But when I'm running this report just to see what I actually booked,
hmm
that was the piece I was missing on how to get those out of there. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. Yeah. And so, yeah, with this one, it's great for just like, there's just all kinds of data in this report, which makes it a little bit, there's a lot of options in the filter and stuff, but you can do things like narrow it down to just banquet halls or just just certain packages or, all kinds of things like that. So if you just want to run a report and see, how many photography, packages you booked or, group things by due dates or stuff like that, you can do that. Um,
Awesome.
yeah, and similar if you just need to see who worked events or what customer and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So
And Anna's
lots of
got a
options in
question.
that
She
one.
says, where do you find these options? I think she was talking about the dashboard. Anna, let me know if that's wrong. But when you were customizing the dashboard,
Yeah. So if you go to the dashboard, just hit that dashboard link, or it's where you are when you first sign in. On the right here, there's this option. It'll either show customized dashboard or let you switch between if you've got a few. And what you can do with that is, let's go to this other one. I don't want to mess this one up. What you can do is you can customize it with lots of different widgets. So you can say, let me add another one here. So if I kind of want to see, how many proposals I've got, I can just add that widget,
there's a button at the very bottom there that he's clicking. Just yeah,
this add
yeah,
item.
add
Yeah,
item. Yeah,
yeah. And so yeah, if you click this add item, it'll let you see the different things.
and
And
then
so
there's charts and graphs. Yeah,
yeah, and like I say, this top section is great for kind of like end of the year planning, keeping on top of things type stuff. We do have a lot of other widgets in here, more scheduling type stuff for your kind of more day-to-day stuff. If you just kind of want to see upcoming bookings and appointments and, checklists, payments, all types of stuff are in there. But I think these top four are worth kind of checking out for more like end of the
yeah.
year as you're kind of planning and stuff.
And Cynthia's got her hand up. What's up, Cynthia?
Yes. So going back to tracking and information for the reports, is there an option for mileage? Is
Oh,
the
that's a good
tech,
one. Yeah,
yeah.
thank you. That's a very good one to ask. So what you probably want to do on that. So I think the bookings report is the best one for that. And if you click view report, one of the columns in there is distance. And we got two columns, billable distance and then total. If you're doing like reporting like for the IRS or whatever, how many miles, you want the total. It doesn't really matter what you bill them, you want to know how much you drove. Whoops. So you can turn that column on, and that'll show you for each event how many miles it was from the starting point. So and then at the bottom we'll have the totals added up there. So that's the easiest way to get that. And then in the filter, you probably want to set, whatever it is this year or something last year, when you're in 2026. But if you do this year and any confirmed, that's probably the best way to do that. And so that'll show you your total distance and then for just the year in question.
Okay, so this is total distance from the point that we have registered as our either business or home.
Yeah, what it is, we use
Okay.
so under your business settings in the travel tab, what we do, we use it from like based on the travel, whatever travel zone it fits into. So in general, that's going to be based on your business address. But if you do, some people have like multiple addresses or they have more complicated setups. So it is possible that if you have like a custom address in there, it would use that. But in general, that's going to be from your business address on your account. So yeah.
And then does this also, I know it gives us the total, but does it calculate per mile or does it, like, what I'm trying to say is, like, for
Mm-hmm.
example, the state of Illinois has per mile cost for
Mm-hmm.
travel. Does that do that here or does that just charge the total amount?
Yeah, we'll just, all this will do is track the total number of miles. So that'll give you the, hey, I did 4,000 miles this year. And then using whatever, like generally, like it would be something, when you're filling out your taxes, they're going to want to know the number and all that type of stuff from what I remember.
Yeah.
They may, and then if they ask, or if you're preparing stuff for your accountant, they'll ask for maybe a spreadsheet or something, the details. But in general, it's just kind of, we'll give you that number and the details of where you went, from where to where. But then the actual rates and stuff would be more of a, as you're filling out your taxes type of thing.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And yeah, every state, is different. There are IRS rules, so it kind of is somewhat,
I think
should be
you're supposed to
straightforward, but
log
I think
the.
every state is different. So
I think
yeah.
you're supposed to log the odometer when you start and stop your travel,
Yeah.
Matt. But I can't imagine anybody doing that unless you're a truck driver. My God.
Yeah, if you really,
And
really want to be accurate, you should be, when you get in the car, you start the odometer, and when you get there,
I
you.
can't imagine. I mean, there are tools you plug in your car, I think, that
Hmm.
do some of that. But I mean, just it's, yeah.
Well, Google will actually track it for you now. So, like, if
Mm.
you allow Google to track you and
Hmm.
you enter in the location from the starting point to end point, it will actually track you all the way through
Mm.
No, I
and tell
understand.
you, yeah.
I'm saying
Yeah.
I think part of the requirement, according to the text, is like you got to look at the odometer in your car and say, "Oh, my car is at 54,332 miles," and
Yeah,
then
you are
you
supposed
log
to, yeah.
that. But
That's too
I
much.
can't imagine anybody doing that. God.
where
Yeah, I
was the
always
distance button? I'm sorry, I missed it.
yeah, I always figured if I ever got audited, I would just fake it at that point. So if you go into the bookings report, so sales reporting, and then the bookings report, what you can do is you'll probably want to use that filter, set it to just your
I'll
confirmed
confirm.
events, and then probably this year or last year, depending on when you're running this. And then under the columns, you can
Oh,
either look in this long list, or the search thing we just added is makes that much easier. But if you just type distance, you'll see the total distance there.
gotcha. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Nope, you're good. Yeah. Yeah, it's yeah, the some of the rules are always interesting. But
Well,
yeah,
any other questions or reports to cover? I mean, we might end up a little bit early here, um, but I think that's it. I mean, it's a good time
yeah.
to, review it.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and I think this time of year, it's a great chance to kind of, take a look back, see what went well, evaluate for next year. Usually after the next week or so, it starts to slow way down, once you get through the pre-Christmas rush, and then it's a great time to kind of reevaluate things and plan for next year. So. The other thing we will be sending out after the first, we do kind of, if you've ever like seen like a Spotify, I think it's Unwrapped or Wrapped or something like that, style breakdown. We'll be sending that out shortly after the first as well. So that'll have kind of some fun stats about your business, different things like that. So we're working on that now. So that should be kind of, expect to see that in your email soon as well. So.
Yeah. Cynthia's got more. Let's hear it.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yes. So I know you went into staff and number of events that they have completed.
Hmm.
Is there a per event, staff rate that is accounted for, like how much they have, I guess, essentially expensed in salary or labor or hourly? I don't even know
Hmm.
how to phrase it, but like how much we've paid them per event. Is there a section for that?
What you can do, so So in the expenses, we don't have like a formula where it automatically does it. But if you do set up, if you do want to, assign an expense to a staff, let's see here. We'll assign one to this demo guy and say we paid him $250 and, whatever the date in booking and all that was. You can track that. Staff, we'll say, we'll give it a staff payments category. You can log these things, for your staff. If you have a super simple, like, they always get paid the same, there is a way to automate that, but most people tend to have more complicated types of things. But with and so once you create an expense, then you can either look at that on the profit and loss. You can see, okay, what were your staff payments? Or you can go to that expense report and break it out that way. Either filter just by the staff payments or something like that. So there are ways to do that. It's not particularly automatic. I don't know that necessarily most people do log it in, because it is just, it's more work to kind of enter it and everything. But that is an option if you want to. You could also, under the bookings report, technically you can get within the bookings report, you can see the staff, you can see who was assigned, and you can see the length. So, I mean, you could get pretty far with that. You could download that to Excel and multiply it or something. It just, and if it's pretty simple, to where you have one staff working events and your events are pretty straightforward, then that might work. The reason we don't have anything like built in is because a lot of times they've got, people have like multiple staff assigned, or they'll have like, different people do different, one person's set up and one person's, there the rest of the time, or, so it gets, kind of complicated in practice, but either of those might be helpful if you need a way to kind of pull that data.
Nice. Well, Matt, thanks for driving
Yeah,
and doing
absolutely.
most of the talking. I really appreciate
Of
that.
course.
Makes my evening easier. And the reporting, yeah, it's great. Great time of
Yeah.
year. As again, guys, chat with us if you have questions, if you're looking for something, if a save button's not there, let us know. And we'll help you, get the data you need, or improve Check Cherry.